Bad Rabbit.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bad Rabbit Homestead. I'm Shiloh. I recently posted a very cute video of my newborn American guinea hog piglets, and I got a very interesting response. Here is the screenshot. The garbage that have homesteads just want another reason to abuse and kill animals, even though they know that it is not necessary. I have zero respect for this kind of garbage, with lots of exclamation marks. She then posts this picture, the 2023 Homesteader checklist. Weird selfie with animal victims, check. Bone broth, check. Overusage of the words nourish, sustain, grass-fed, nutrient dense, check. Empty garden boxes, check. Sourdough bread, check. Pictures of eggs, check. Laura Ingalls Wilder outfit, check. And then she goes on to say, horrifying. These animals will be killed. What a sick, disgusting, filthy garbage dump this is. As you can imagine, after reading these words, I just broke down into tears and immediately became a vegan. Okay, no, I didn't, but I did have a pretty good laugh. So today, in honor of that response, I am going to bake some sourdough dressed as Laura Ingalls Wilder. My options are actually rather limited when it comes to Little House on the Prairie garb, but I have the braids, I have the apron, so that'll have to work. I am such a bad homesteader. I guess I'm going to have to buy myself a Laura Ingalls Wilder dress. All right, let's get to it. I would like to preface this by saying this is not a how-to video. I am by no means a sourdough bread expert, so I encourage you to look at some recipes and play around. This is one thing that everybody will have their own method for. This is how I am going to make my sourdough bread today. I have definitely played around with it in the past, and I'm doing a little something different today. So let's hope it works out. I have my 220 grams of sourdough starter. This is half all-purpose flour and half wheat flour. We're gonna set this aside and make our dough, which consists of, see, this is 900 grams of all-purpose flour. I usually use bread flour, but I didn't feel like digging it out of the freezer. So we're just gonna use all-purpose. And then I have 100 grams of whole wheat flour. Next up, I have 600 grams of water. I'm just gonna add all of these together. And this is going to make a shaggy dough. Like so. And we're going to cover this with a towel and let it sit for about 30 minutes. This is called an autolyse, where you just let your dough rest for a bit without adding the levain or starter or salt. Probably could have given this another 15 or 30 minutes to rest, but since I am on a time crunch, I'm going to go ahead and start the next step. So I have my starter right here. I'm going to add this to my dough. And I have 20 grams of salt here. It's just plain fine salt, and 30 grams of water. I'm going to add that as well. Wet my hands, and I'm going to mix this together. Those are some fun sounds. Something feels off about this, and I don't know what it might be. I think because I didn't let the dough rest enough before adding my starter. So now I want to stretch and fold it a bit until the dough is smooth. It should be a bit sticky, but you don't want it sopping wet. So just stretch it, fold it over, turn, stretch it, fold it over, turn, stretch it, fold it over. And keep doing that until the dough is smooth. And you may need to add more water. You may need to add more flour depending on whether it's too wet or not wet enough. Once you become a more seasoned sourdough baker, you should be able to get a feel for the dough, how it feels when you stretch and fold, and you'll get a feel for how it should feel and how it should not. I haven't quite mastered that yet. I don't know if I ever will, to be honest. I think I'm forever going to be learning. All right, that's probably good enough. It's nice and smooth. It's not too wet, not too dry. So I'm going to grab my towel and I'm going to let this rest for 15 to 30 minutes, probably 15 minutes because again, I'm on a time crunch. So I'm just gonna set this aside in a warm area. Next up, we have 3 sets of stretch and folds with 30 minutes between each stretch and fold. I'm just going to show you the first one, and then I'll set my timer for 30 minutes, do the other 2, and then I'll come right back. So again, stretch and folds are just stretching the dough from the bottom, folding over, rotating, stretching, folding, rotating, and do this for a couple minutes. So I'm going to keep stretching and folding, and then I'll let this sit again at room temperature for 30 minutes, and then I'll come back and do this 2 more times, and then we're on to the next step. I've done 3 sets of stretch and folds, half an hour between each, and then a half an hour after the last one. So now I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap and let it sit for another 2-ish hours, depending on the poke test. So I left to go to town thinking I'd only be gone for about 2 hours, and I was gone for more like 4.5. So this thing has been proofing at room temperature for about 4.5, maybe 5 hours. So let's just unwrap it and see if it's overproofed. I am not an expert, but it's definitely proved enough. If you can see, it's kind of jiggly. It looks smooth. It's kind of domed. And it's not shaggy. And if I finger poke it, oh, wow, okay. It's very, very sticky. So normally if you stick your finger in the dough, it's going to leave a indent of some kind. Mine is just so sticky that it's sticking to my finger. I believe this is overproved, which is fine. It's better than underproved. I'm just going to work with it. So I'm going to dump it out on my floured surface. I'm going to wet my hands again. Now that my hands are wet, if I poke down, my fingerprint kind of stays and it doesn't rise all the way back up. You could clearly see my fingerprints. So I'm not an expert, but I believe that means this is overproved. It just means that after I bake the dough, the crumb will probably be dense, which is fine, especially if you're making sandwiches that have mayo and you don't want big holes that your mayo falls through, or buttered toast. So we're just going to plop this down onto our floured surface. And I'm going to divide it into 2 equal-ish portions. So I'm going to form these into little loaves just by kind of lifting and folding everything into the center. I can use this to kind of help me work it around. All right, so we'll lift this kind of in the center, center, center again, center again, just to make a little ball where you have the edges kind of tucked under. So there's that one. There you go. Some nice round loaves right there. I'm going to cover them and let them rest for just maybe 5 minutes. Now we're going to put these in bannetons. I have an actual banneton here, and I have a glass bowl with a paper towel in it that has been floured. I'm using the paper towel because I've seen people online use the paper towel to make all the neat patterns. Well, we'll see if it works. I have my doubts. I'm going to take our first one and flip it over so that the bottom faces up. And then take this guy, bottom facing up. All right. Now I'm going to cover these. I have been using plastic wrap to cover, but I've seen suggestions to use a shower cap to cover instead, or a wet towel will work as well, but I've found that the plastic wrap works better for me so that the dough doesn't get dry. I might actually do a shower cap on one if I could find one. Either way, I'm going to cover these with something and I'm going to stick them in the fridge. Typically, you're going to want to proof these in the refrigerator overnight and then bake them in the morning. It's all up to you. The longer it sits in the fridge, the more of the sour taste you're going to get. I'm going to go ahead and cover these and put them in the fridge right now, and I will get back to you when I'm baking. I let the dough proof overnight in the fridge, and then part of the day, I realized this morning that since it was probably overproofed as of last night, it's probably not a good idea to let it proof more in the fridge. So currently I have the oven preheating with the Dutch oven in it at 500 degrees, and I'm going to go ahead and score my first loaf and put it in. I stuck my loaf into the freezer for about 30 minutes to make it easier to score. This is the one with the paper towel. Let's see how it did. Oh, that actually worked nice. You could definitely tell that there's some paper towel swirls on here. I'm going to sprinkle it with a little bit of flour. Now I'm going to choose the ugliest part of this loaf, which looks like it's on this side. And I'm going to score it directly across like so.
Water is supposed to help the dough not snag on your knife. And I'm going about halfway across. I want it pretty deep on this one. So I'm going about maybe an inch. And here it goes. Oops. Now this is going to go back into the 500-degree oven for about 20-25 minutes, and then I'll take the lid off and bake it at 450 for another 20-25 minutes. Here it goes. First loaf is out of the oven. I forgot to set a timer, so I may have overcooked it. So let's see. I hope it's not burnt. I'm really on a roll with this. Okay. So it's a little dark around here, and also his head split open, so it looks more like something out of a horror movie. And the pattern from the paper towel didn't really bake through either. You can kind of see it on that side, but I mean, doesn't that look like an alien or something? Let's see. Yeah, it's really dark on the bottom. Whoops. There we go. Let's hope the next loaf goes better. For the next loaf, I want to attempt the pumpkin pattern to make it look like a pumpkin. I've tried this once before and failed, and I think I know what I did wrong. Get the strings to cooperate. I'm using jute, and that's probably not the best choice, but it's the only thing I had. Work with me here. Oh my gosh, okay. This might be more than my irritation can handle. My patience is wearing very thin today. Oh, whatever, fuck it. Okay, that worked out, kind of. It's gonna have the same problem as the first time I did it, where they're not tight enough. I am definitely going to have a side burst. Well, whatever. It is what it is. Okay, so there's my messed up pumpkin. Now I'm gonna make some messed up score marks. At this point, I really don't care. I'm just gonna slice whatever, wherever. It's not uniform. Okay, there's my crappy scoring. And this guy is going to go into the oven. And this time I'll set a timer, so hopefully it won't burn. I just got my second loaf out of the oven. I believe it's done. Hopefully not overdone. It doesn't look that bad. It's just slightly overdone at the bottom, but the top looks pretty good. It does somewhat resemble a pumpkin. I'm going to cut off the string and see how it looks. So there you have it. My pumpkin-shaped loaf. Scoring didn't really come through, but overall I'm pleased because I didn't think it was going to come out at all. Now I'm going to stick my stem in And there we go. My sourdough pumpkin loaf. Once I brushed the flour off of Audrey 2 here, you can actually see the pattern of the paper towel. So it's not terrible. And it's Halloween, so it works out that he's kind of monstery. I think he reminds me of the monsters in A Quiet Place before their faces are all, that and their teeth are all out. But it does look like Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. So it's Halloween themed. There you go. But I am also very pleased with my pumpkin loaf. I'm going to let these cool and we'll see what the crumb looks like. Again, I have a feeling it is very overproofed, but I'll get back with you in a minute. Before we cut into Audrey 2, I just want to show you the sunset. And this dog. Your ears inside out, puppy. I'm going to cut into Audrey 2 to see what the crumb looks like. I'm going to save the pumpkin for later, mostly because I don't want to cut into my beautiful pumpkin, and also I don't need two open things of bread at once. So I'm going to cut him this way so that he still has a face. Oh, and I'm going to move this so I don't cut it. There we go. Of course, he has a very burnt bottom, so. There you have it. It doesn't look as overproofed as I thought it would, but it is a bit gummy. But let's see how it tastes. Do the smaller end. I do love a sourdough bread that you practically have to have a chainsaw to cut into. That didn't work out very well. Okay, we'll try it at the end first. No butter. Still tastes good, but the texture is off. It's a little bit gummy, a little bit chewy. Let's put some butter on it. Oh, it fell. Yeah, that is not the greatest bread I've ever made. But at least they're moderately pretty. This one turned out pretty-ish. So I'm kind of pleased, and we'll still eat it. It's not like it's a total bust. It'll still make sandwiches. It'll still make toast. We can make French toast. So I won't count it a total loss, but I definitely would not do this again. I should probably change the name of my channel to like Sourdough Failures with Shiloh. How not to homestead with Shiloh. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned what not to do when making sourdough. You've been watching The Bad Rabbit Homestead. I'm Shiloh. Please subscribe to our channel so that you can learn things with me. And by learn things with me, I mean not learn from me, but learn alongside of me. Please subscribe, please like. There's a bell notification somewhere that you should click. And please support our channel. We greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day.